Hey, this is Todd. I've got some free time today. The family is away, so I can play. So I thought, since I couldn't think of anything else to do, why not get a stream out there? And I thought I would. I'm doing a lot of these rulebook read-alongs, reading through different rules and kind of chatting about them. I thought I would pick one from back in the day, a little something different. So I picked X1, Isle of Dread, which is I've always enjoyed. I don't know if it seems to get quite as much run as, say, Keep on the Borderlands, maybe some other ones. But I thought, yeah, why not? See how far I can get in here. And, I can talk about it in terms not just of if you were going to play this straight up kind of OSR, but we can look at ways that if we were going to use the, say, 5th edition or a modern game, what it might have to offer. I know I used just the map from this once as part of a game. The game itself didn't quite go the way I wanted to, just in terms of one of those things where you really need to communicate to your players what's going on. I didn't do a great job of that, but still it was fun. I learned some lessons from it, but those lessons didn't have so much to do with the Isle of Dread itself as to do with just better ways to prep for me to prep the game. But anyway, let's get in here. So here we have the cover with kind of that great old school art. Let's see. This one's by David Cook and Tom Moldvay. It is actually for the expert set, the X of BX. It's for characters. So characters level 3 to 7. So this would be right at that transitional period. I believe the basic set takes you up to 3rd level, and then 3rd level and beyond, you would flip over to the expert set. I think the basic set might. I don't even. I imagine maybe it has rules for taking up levels past 3rd, or it just gives you that kind of and so on and so on. I don't remember exactly. Either way, that's what the expert part of the set will then take you on for. So let's delve in here a little bit. So we've got a couple of maps. Taboo Island. So remember, these would be on that kind of inside fold area. Right, so on the physical version, it's right there. See? And then, let's see. Here we have the actual inside cover. All right. So I'm gonna, gloss over some of this stuff since it's not super important. It's for use with the expert set. It's a wilderness adventure. It's designed as a framework to help dungeon masters design their own wilderness adventures. So there we go. Maybe that's a good lens to look at this through. Is what can this tell us about designing our own wilderness adventures? Okay, right. If you're a player, stop reading. All right, let's see. Let's kind of flip through these dungeon master notes. The Isle of Dread is a wilderness adventure module in 5 parts. Part 1 is the introduction, which outlines both the adventure and the fantasy world it takes place in. Part 2, the Isle of Dread, is the first stage of the adventure. It includes getting to the Isle of Dread, exploring the main island, and setting up a base for the next stage of the adventure. Part 3, the party investigates the island's great Central Plateau. With good fortune and thought, the party should establish a base at Mantru, a small village on the shore of the plateau's Great Crater Lake. Part 4 is the climax. Here, the party discovers the secrets of the Taboo Island in the center of the lake. Part 5 contains the new monsters introduced in the module. After the basic adventure is over, the Isle of Dread can be used as a site of additional adventures, some of which are described at the end of Part 4. Okay, that's good. So 3 parts, or sorry, 4 parts. We got the intro, we've got the island itself. Then they move on from the outer parts of the island, exploring the inner part, then the very inner part. So basically, you could see here the movement's supposed to be from outside the Isle of Dread to the isle, to the plateau, to the island. At least that's how they envision it. Okay. While the D&D Expert Rulebook contains most of the information necessary to design wilderness adventures, this module is another tool. It is a graphic example of what a wilderness adventure may be. It allows the DM to learn by experience about wilderness design and supplements the rules given in the basic and expert sets. Okay. All good stuff. All right. So let's see. They're telling us about the map of the module, which is not here because it's somewhere else in the book. All right, let's see. Okay. This is where, unfortunately, when you're trying to read through it in a flip book, let's see, since I have the physical one here. So we got, let's see in the back. Did they give us a continental wide map? Doesn't look like they do. Oh, they do, but it's way over here. So the continent map that this key is this right here. And I'm going to skip all this. This is basically, if you're playing this in sort of World of Greyhawk, you can situate it there. Obviously, at this point, you're playing. I don't know where you would put it if you were going to throw the Isle of Dread into Forgotten Realms area, or anyway, it just has to be kind of in the island somewhere. But here we have a bunch of stuff about that geography, which I'm not super concerned about at the moment. Even got some pronunciations. Gives us some weather. Here we go. The Isle of Dread. Here we got the background. Several weeks ago, the Party of Adventurers was returning from a previous adventure. The DM can work this into the campaign as desired when they discovered a cache of scroll papers. The scroll paper was made of an excellent vellum parchment, a kind of paper that lasts for centuries. On the journey home, the characters were caught in a sudden rainstorm, and the entire cache was drenched. Upon the party's return to Specularum, which is one of the locations where the adventure assumes you start off on, though you can, obviously you can move the starting location somewhere else. It was found that none of them were magical. Still, magic users can always use good paper for spell research and writing their spell books. So the characters carefully spread the paper out in front of a fire to dry out. Much to their surprise, as the paper dried out, writing appeared on several of the pages. The heat had brought out secret writing on the parchment. Okay, so basically this is the letter that's is really going to set the whole thing in motion, right? So the idea here is the party's doing something else. If you're planning ahead, if you knew that I'm doing an adventure, whatever, and then I know I'm going to do Isle of Dread next, you could basically see the adventure in your previous adventure by having some cache of scroll papers, and then you could use their example, which is they get soaked and drying them out gets the writing to come out, or you could just have the writing be there. You could manage it multiple different ways. But the idea is that they're going to get this letter. So here they're saying that, or not letter, it's part of a log, ship's log. And let's see. Okay, here we go. When the gale finally ended, we found ourselves approximately 7 days normal sailing distance due south out of Specularum, which is handy because ideally you're going to look at that and say, this is how we're going to sail 7 days due north, or whatever. We're going to, due south to follow that and get into there. So they're in the Thanagroth. I should have grabbed my glasses. Archipelago. We replenished our supplies, patched up the ship, and traded our remaining goods at native villages along the shores of several islands. Some villages were friendly, but others were hostile, and the natives attacked on sight. I suspect the hostile villages were filled with cannibals. Ooh, cannibals. We skirted the coastline of several islands, sailing south by west until we reached a small peninsula cut off from the main island by a massive stone wall. We were well received by the natives of Tanaroa, the small village that guards the wall. The villagers have no name for the large island other than the Isle of Dread. Their own small peninsula is known simply as home. The villagers told us a tale about an ancient city in the central highland of the isle that was built by the same people who built the wall. The villagers called the builders the gods, but I noticed that the names of the gods and the personal names of the clan ancestors were often the same. So I suspect that their ancestors and the builders were one and the same. I believe that the natives once possessed as a much more advanced culture, and that of the descendants of the builders have returned to a more primitive state. The inland city is rumored to be filled with treasure beyond imagining. In particular, I heard persistent tales concerning a great black pearl of the gods that still remains in the inland city. The black waters abound with excellent pearl beds, so the rumor of the black pearl may well be true. All right, so you can see just from this here, we've got the seed, right? The adventure seed. There's treasure. There's some kind of a huge pearl. We kind of know where it is. Let's hear what else this log has to say. The village contains a number of huge lifelike statues of iron, bronze, and stone. Since no villager currently has the skill or the craft to make such statues, the tale of a lost city built by the gods seems reasonable. I would have liked to explore inland to verify the rumors, but too many crewmen died in the storm or by cannibal spears. Only 5 of us are left. I am the only professional adventurer, the others are only sailors. We can sail the small ship well enough, but on land in hostile territory, we would be helpless. Once back in Specularum, I should be able to recruit a new crew and a party of professional adventurers, and I will return to claim the great Black Pearl. One thing I managed to do before leaving, we sailed around the island and made the best map we could. We were afraid to land since village fishermen had warned us that it was extremely dangerous to land anywhere on the main island, and the coasts were rocky with no beaches. As a result, the map only shows the coastal areas we could chart from the ship, but it is better than nothing. Signed, Rory Barbarossa. I believe the map that he is referring to, which would be, I guess, is this one. All right, and it says the DM should hand the players the tear-out copy of the ship's log with the incomplete map, the Isle of Dread, on the back. I think that's what that one has. Let's see, just to verify. Yep. There's fairway map. Okay. There we have it. There's our adventure seed. And they say it's signed by Rory Barbarossa, a well-known adventurer and sea captain who died about 30 years ago. A little research in local taverns will reveal to the players that just before he died, Rory was indeed recruiting for a journey south. He had been blown off course on his last voyage and had hardly been in town a day before he started signing on new hands. Unfortunately, Rory angered a powerful wizard over a lost wager and died horribly before his journey south began. Not only does the story of Rory Barbarossa's death confirm the writing on the parchment, but every rumor that the party can track down about the Thanagloth archipelago tends to confirm the account. The DM should make up suitable rumors as needed. Is that Thanagloth with this writing? Just looking here because it's... Oh, you know, it's funny because my version is a little bit different in the layout. Oh, sure. Maybe not. Let's see. Oh, here we go. I can't tell. Thanagloth. Anyway. So there you have the seed. Now it's interesting here how the module sort of glosses over some of the prep work that you'll need to do as a GM with this, because some of it is, it's just giving you this little block of text, things that it's really expected that the party is going to do. The party goes out and tries to do some research on it. Here's what they'll find, right? It's not written out in a way that maybe a more modern module might do to make it clear that here's stuff the party should be doing or you should encourage. It kind of just says, well, you know, in this just one paragraph, if they do research, they'll find this. If they see rumors, they'll find that. And it's all going to confirm what they do. But there is theoretically some work there the party has to do of going out and chasing down this information. Of course, you could, as a GM, make it easy and just hand them the information. If you wanted to just get on the fast track over to the Isle of Dread, though, I might say there's probably a better way to do that. If you just want to get them to the island, you don't want them to have to do this. Another thing you could do is, again, if you're seeding this, knowing that you're going through, just to use Lost Mines of Phandelver, and you decided that after that you want to try the Isle of Dread, is to layer this stuff into that adventure, so that maybe something they capture from the goblins or someone else or the Red Brands has some of these letters in it. Maybe there's rumors about Rory Barbarossa that you're hearing in the different towns you're in, whether it's Phandalin or wherever, that you could kind of work in the background and then bring it sort of up to the fore as that adventure is closing down, to give you more of a natural bridge into this one, so that you don't have to worry with something which might be a problem for some parties and some GMs, is getting the party from, okay, you've got this map, to figuring out that it's true. And maybe some parties may just take it for granted that everything is genuine and go, but maybe other parties might be like, well, let's just sell the map to somebody else and be done with it and take some gold and do something else. So how do you encourage them to go through these steps to end up going to the Isle of Dread? It's going to be different for different parties, and here they kind of gloss over some of that that scaffolding that you're going to have to do. We'll see what else says. So on preparation, players begin the module in Specularum, which is in the Grand Duchy of Karamakos. If the players are based somewhere else, the DM should arrange to have them go to Specularum or Coastal City before the adventure begins. All right, so just just a little boilerplate saying, hey, you're going to start in Specularum. If you need to get to either get them to Specularum or get them somewhere else that's appropriate. Start off, the players must acquire a ship or passage to the Isle of Dread. Most parties should have no trouble raising enough money to buy a small sailing ship. Again, it's easy to say on the page. I don't know. I don't have my basic expert book in front of me, and it doesn't say here exactly how much a small sailing ship costs. But you're going to want to plan that in advance. If you want to play this adventure, but the party has no money, then they're going to have to raise money before they get a sailing ship. Alternatively, let's say the party wants to try to sell the map to make a quick buck, like I mentioned before, because they have no money to take it on by themselves. Maybe someone offers to buy it, but not just give them a price. Say, hey, I'm going to buy it, but come with me because I need that adventuring group, right? As Rory himself says in his letter, you can't just take some sailors and go out there. You need to get hardened adventurers. So the party could then be somebody else's hired adventurers for that if they try to go that route. Okay, and here it goes. If the characters cannot come up with the money, the DM will have to arrange matters so that characters do get a ship or smaller boat that can sail the ocean. Well, there we go. Some ideas on how characters might acquire a ship include have a merchant hire the party to investigate the island. That's pretty much what I just said. Allow the characters to buy an old, decrepit boat. Generate a percentage by dividing the price paid for the boat by the cost of a new boat. This percentage is the measure of the boat's condition. The speed and hull value of the boat are both multiplied by this percentage, giving lower numbers. Also, in any storm, the percentage or lower must be rolled as a saving throw or the boat will sink. Okay. That's a cool way of doing it, right? You buy a used boat. If you buy it for half what a new boat is, and everything is basically half the value. It's a nice, kind of clean, little easy way just to figure out how far off of pristine is this boat. Allow one player to inherit a boat. If this idea is used, the boat should be no larger than a small sailing ship and should have no lifeboat. Remember that the normal inheritance tax is 10% of the value of inherited goods. The inherited boat cannot leave port until the tax is paid. That's also a nice little twist, right? So if you were in Specularum and you're looking around, your party doesn't have any means, suddenly a messenger comes up to one of the players, say, hey, you inherited this boat, it just happens to be here. Might seem a little convenient, which is fine, but there's this pressure of however much it's worth, you have to pay the 10%. If they are broke, do they try to raise the money by going on some little mini adventures before they hit it up? Or do they try to sneak it out of the port? And then how does that affect the world when they come back to the port? I don't know what they call it. The master of the port will remember that these guys snuck out, or do they then have to pay more of whatever gold to get back? But it certainly puts pressure on them to come back with treasure because they are going to start out in the whole 10% of their ship's value, whether the ship comes back itself or not. Let the characters borrow the money. Interest should be at least 10% per month. That's a pretty good vig. The loan must be paid by the end of the first voyage. Local money lenders have a working agreement with a magic user who will send an invisible stalker to attack each character who has not paid his or her share of the loan by 1 week after the due date. Well, there you go. Don't pay. Invisible stalkers are coming for you. Boy, that's some cheap hired help because you could just keep unleashing invisible stalker after invisible stalker. That's tough. All right, the adventure. During the voyage from Specularum to the village of Tenaroa on the Isle of Dread, use the wilderness rules from the expert set and the ocean sea encounter tables. Remember to check for weather each day. 2d6, 2 equals be calm, 12 equals storm. And then if a 6 is rolled on the encounter check, there will be one. The boat enters a reef area. It will take 1 to 100. You're rolling a percentile die, points of hull damage. In spite of these hazards, the DM should remember that the party should still reach the Isle of Dread and should handle weather, rolls for becoming lost, and encounters with this in mind. So basically, here's all the stuff you can do. You're going to have the standard kind of wilderness and ocean traveling rules, but, stay on point, right? You're trying to get to the Isle of Dread. This whole adventure is about getting to the Isle of Dread, so try to get them to the Isle of Dread in some way. And again, you can have fun with that, but probably if they're lost and they can't find the Isle of Dread, that's maybe a mistake, right? It might be great as far as you're doing everything fictional and you're really keeping to the sandbox tenets that you have, but you're trying to run the Isle of Dread adventure. get, most likely try to get them try to allow them to get the Isle of Dread with not too much trouble. Maybe they have to limp there. Maybe the boat sinks on the reef and they're able to swim to the Isle of Dread, but you want to get them there. Once the characters reach the Isle, map D1, they will probably land at one of the native villages. The details of these villages are given in the description of Tanaroa, the main village. Encounter area 1P7. These villages are matriarchies, so the chieftain will always be a woman. The DMs should set up a few typical NPC leaders in advance or use the ones included later. From these villages, the party can move inland. Note that they can map 1 hex of terrain in every direction when they pass through a hex. 7 new hexes maximum, unless the terrain in the hex is mountainous or covered with dense foliage, which blocks sight. That's kind of a little important detail, because there is a lot of exploration, and it really is just saying that you come into a hex, and unless it's really covered with terrain, you're going to be able to see kind of what the hex next door has. So using 5 or 6 mile hexes, right? So if you're in the plains or you're in something and you kind of have an idea, you look over and you can see that 6 miles away is hills. You look the other way, 6 miles away, there's more plains, and you can kind of do that. And so, okay, you get the idea of what's around you. So as you're moving, you can map more of what's around you in just your hex, at least in the broad strokes, right? In the kind of hex mapping style. If it's hills, it's forest, it's whatever. It doesn't tell you much of what's in it, but you get that kind of idea. And then it helps you a little bit, makes it a little bit easier to fill out your map. Using the wilderness wandering monster tables. Wandering monsters should be checked for twice a day, once for the daylight hours and once for the hours of darkness. The night check, subtract 1 from the roll since most of the wandering monsters are inactive at night. Okay, that's a nice little tweak. This method of handling encounters is used only in the first stage of the adventure. When the players reach the Central Plateau and beyond, a new method will be introduced. We'll see page 12. Once monsters encounter, the exact monster is determined by rolling percentage dice on one of the wandering monster tables, depending on where the party is on the Isle of Dread. And we'll see those tables soon enough. Let's see. Okay, they're just telling us which tables to use. The DM should use logic when rolling wandering monsters. If the monster roll is highly unlikely for the terrain type, for example, a Plesiosaurus in a non-lake hex, the DM should either roll again or choose a different wandering monster. If the monster is either much too strong or much too weak for the party, the DM may change the number appearing on the monster's hit points to provide a suitable challenge for the party. So there you go. Isle of Dread. It's telling you it's okay for you to fudge the numbers. Lower some hit points if you feel like it. Heck, change the monster if you feel like it. I tend to go with what the dice give me, and people are free to run away or not. But this idea that some of these things are kind of newer constructs, right? Here we are. Isle of Dread was. Let's see, does it say here the year? Anywhere here? But anyway, and I know they've said it in even earlier spots, but you've got permission to fudge. You got permission to do a little fudging if you feel like it's just going to hammer the party unfairly. But you don't have to, right? They're not saying definitely do. They're not saying definitely don't. If you feel it, do it. And here we have let's see, they're saying map the Isle of Dread. Oh, that's D1, which one is that? That's Taboo Island. Taboo Island. Where's D1? Must be in the book itself. Trying to pull it up so I can see both at the same time. But I don't think. No. Oops. Riveting. Video watching me off screen look at a map. Here we go. All right. That's what we're looking at. D1. So let's see what we've got here. So these are just the tables, so I'm just going to kind of skim through these. The road symbol joining the Central Plateau to the mountain chain is a rope bridge. A road symbol. Okay. That's a long bridge. Road symbol joining the Central Plateau to the mountain chain is a rope bridge. Or am I looking at a different thing? What's the road? I was looking at a river. Okay. Well, anyway. Here we got dryads, ghouls, humans, killer bees, living statues of different sorts, lizards, giant lizards. Well, you got some lycanthropes, were rats, werewolves, were boars, were tigers, were bears, mummies, giant rats, ragodessa. Don't even really remember what this. Robber flies, giant scorpions, skeleton snakes, giant spiders, giant toads, treants, whites, wraiths, and zombies. The humans will probably be the natives who live on the island. For information on creating native encounters, see another page. When living statues are rolled as wandering monsters, there is a 50% chance. Let's see. They will be living statues, and a 50% you'll only be normal statues. That's kind of cool. So you can't really. I mean, parties are usually paranoid about statues and those things anyway, because you're just waiting for them to come alive. This is just funny because you've got that 50% chance, right? So yeah, they could be fake, they could be just statues, they could be living statues, you don't know. And zombies will attack strangers on sight unless the individual looks like a native. Zombies will only attack natives when their master has commanded them to do so. Another interesting little twist. So if they go native for some reason or another, then you get a little advantage on at least the zombies. And see another set of monsters for another area. Aranea. Those are new monsters. I think those are the psychic spiders. Cave bear, centaur, cyclops, direwolf. Some dragons. Young red dragon, not older than average age. So they're not super adult dragons, but still dragons. Dryad again. Giant elk. Grangary. Hydra with 5 heads. Lizard man. Mastodon. Megatherium. Neanderthal. Phenaton. Vororhakos. Rakasta. Plus a saber-toothed tiger. Rock baboon, saber-toothed tiger, titanothere, trant, troll, wyvern, and zombie. And we've got some more monsters. It's like some dinosaurs, giant crocodiles, some more dragons, another dryad, hill giant, stone giant, another hydra, plesiosaur, pteranodon, a rock, stegosaurus, trachodon, treant, triceratops, T-Rex, wyvern, and zombies. You got a whole mix of stuff. I always like when you have dinosaurs mixed in there. I just think they're cool. Here we go. The village of Tangaroa. Tangaroa stands in a clearing at the edge of the jungle, just south of a 50-foot high wall built of huge stone blocks. The wall stretches for 2 miles across the thin neck of land that joins the southeastern peninsula with the main island. Evenly spaced along the wall are 28 square towers, each 100 feet to a side and 70 feet tall. In the center of the wall is a pair of massive wooden gates. Each gate has double doors that are 40 feet wide, 40 feet tall, and 5 feet thick. Each gate can be barred with a heavy wooden beam. Sounds very much like King Kong, which I'm sure is the was the inspiration for this. I know there's another module later that Gygax does. I think it's called Isle of the Ape, which is another kind of King Kong thing. But this clearly, they have a part of the island that's sort of safe, and then you have this wall that's between the safe part and the dangerous part. There are dinosaurs there, and the original. I know in like the Peter Jackson King Kong, and I know the original King Kong there were dinosaurs. I think the 70s King Kong there wasn't a dinosaur. I could be misremembering, but dinosaurs are involved and other kind of things like that. So clearly, and I feel like as the party, particularly playing this originally, you're definitely going to get King Kong kind of vibes from this, and it's obviously that knowledge of that reference is going to make things. It's going to definitely give you the right kind of feeling of this place is dangerous. Once we go over that wall, it's serious because you may even be expecting a giant ape to come, a really giant ape to come running out, though there doesn't seem to be one. Okay, the village of Tangaroa guards and controls these gates. A cleared trail leads into the village from the south, winding through Tangaroa and continuing through the gates into the jungle beyond. The path circles 4 roughly circular groups of huts made of wood and roofed with interwoven palm leaves. Okay, so we got some more details. I'm just going to go through all the details, but I think the one thing that's interesting here is that they didn't give you any really you could read that first block text to your party directly, but it's not, the classic kind of box text that maybe we'll see later for specific dungeon areas, right? So you're kind of meant as the GM really to sort of absorb this and then present it to your party when they arrive here, assuming they arrive here, in whichever way makes sense. But it's giving you the layout. Each collection of huts represents one clan that lives in the village. There are 4 clans: elk, hawk, tiger, and sea turtle. The animal each clan takes its name from is its totem, and the members of the clan believe they are blood brothers to the animal. It's a nice flavor there, right? If you could have some fun with putting some of these animals in the mix. What if the party arrives and they'd been seen killing a sea turtle? Had they pissed off the sea turtle clan, whatever? You could also obviously add some tensions between the clans if you want to. Let's see if they. It's been so long since I've looked at this. I don't know if they talk about that. If there's any trouble between the clans, but let's read on and find out. In the center of the village is a flat-topped hill that has been artificially leveled. In the center of the hill is a 10-foot-tall truncated pyramid that is made of earth and faced with stone slabs. Set on the top of the pyramid is a huge alarm gong in a square. 300 feet to a side around the pyramid is a 3-foot high by 3-foot high wide earthen wall. The hilltop is the assembly place of the village. Members of each clan sit on the earthen mound or stand behind it on the side facing their clan site, while the village leaders conduct business from atop the pyramid. Okay. Nice. Again, it's just more kind of flavor that you can use. Between the clan sites and the flat-topped hill, the path surrounds village gardens and the grounds for the pigs, chickens, and goats that provide meat and milk for the village. The path continues until it reaches the Great Wall and passes into the jungle. Between the village and the Great Wall is a second line of defense, pits 20 to 30 feet deep, filled with 5 to 10 feet of tar. At the base of the towers of the Great Wall are the huts used by the warriors who garrison the wall. So more details, obviously more emphasis on this is super dangerous because not only do they have some massive wall, but they even have the secondary defense with tar pits inside, right? It's reinforcing that stuff's going to get real once we get on the outside of that wall. Hanaro is one of the 7 villages on the southeastern peninsula and the adjoining islands. The other villages are Kirekura, Dawa, Mora, Panatube, Borawao, and Usai. 7 villages are loosely allied through a council of village chiefs that meets once a year. The population of all 7 villages is about 2,100 total. They're all matriarchies. The other 6 villages resemble Tenaroa, except they don't have the defenses because they don't need them. They have the same 4 clans. Clans are basically the unifying force in the villages. In times of war, each clan is organized as its own regiment. So the village chiefs are women, but the clan chiefs are male. And there's also a special officer that serves as an advisor, and there's a war leader. The last important village official and advisor is the village zombie master or zombie mistress. All right. This advisor will be a cleric or magic user of at least 5th level who heads the cult of the Walking Dead in the village. This cult is a secret society whose members, except for the zombie master, wear hooded masks during cult ceremonies. At these ceremonies, the walking ancestors, the same as the monster zombie, are created. While these zombies are sometimes used as laborers or spare warriors, the villagers shun and fear them. Okay, so they mentioned in the monster tables how the zombies wouldn't attack villagers unless absolutely ordered, and here's why: because there's this relationship with this Walking Dead cult. Good to know. All right, the Great Wall is always garrisoned by warriors from the 7 villages. Each village clan garrisons 1 tower with 7 warriors, so there's a total of 196 warriors in the 28 towers. Pits filled with tar are secondary defenses should a non-human raiding party or rampaging monster fight past the wall. The area between the wall and the village has been cleared of trees and brush to allow clear fire for bows and thrown spears. In a recent meeting, the Council of Chiefs decided that it would be good for the 7 villages to trade with the mainland with the mainland, the large continent. Unfortunately, their small fishing boats are unable to sail out of sight of land or stand up to storms on the open seas. If the party has the foresight to stock up on trade goods, their reception by the villagers and the village chiefs will be at a bonus of +2 on the reaction dice roll. So, for those who have who aren't aware of it, I think it is in 5th edition still. I always have to dig it up. But in olden days, you would roll reaction rolls to see how well or poorly the party is received when they come into contact with NPCs and the like. So here it's basically telling you get a little bump. I think it's a 2d6 roll. So +2 is, it's not a huge bonus, but it's a good little swing. Let's see. Furthermore, the party can sell their trade goods for 100% profit, i.e., they will receive back twice what they paid for the goods. That's a nice bump. Villagers are not terribly wealthy, and there is a 5,000 GP limit on the amount of money they can spend. Okay, so essentially, if you brought up to 2,500 GP worth of goods, you'll get up to 5,000 GP back, but not more than that. They're not wealthy. The characters will receive experience points equal to the value in gold pieces of goods sold for opening up a new trade route. After the initial visit, the route is no longer unknown, and the profits from any other trips will not be counted from experience points. That's an interesting little point, and it kind of opens the door to something you could do in your games that I don't know that I ever really saw used beyond this, or even I don't even think when I have played through this, they even talked about that. Was here you talk about you opening up a trade route and the fact that you're the first people from your area to come and trade with these people. If you were to get 5,000 GP, back, then you would have earned yourself 5,000 XP, and all you had to do was get there, bring some trade goods, and make the trades happen, which is a nice feature if you wanted to have a game that was exploration and trade and have things like, I don't know, when you look at maybe the French fur traders in North America who were coming in and working with the different native tribes to buy and sell pelts and things like that, then when you're opening up to new individual areas, you would get experience points for what you could get. But it only works for that first one. So you have to keep pushing the boundaries. You have to keep exploring. You have to keep opening up new things, because once it becomes just another, mercantile trade route, then it's not worth experience anymore. So it's a nice little push. It kind of merges that kind of exploration. But again, it's another motivation, another way of earning experience certainly outside of combat, but even outside of finding treasure. If you can get goods and get them to people who don't know you yet, places that are, undiscovered marketplaces, then you can earn experience that way. So that'll be a nice tool you can integrate into your campaign if you wanted to have maybe a bit less dungeon delving for treasure and more exploration, opening up trade routes and things like that. Then that's a nice feature. The party can use their profits or spare money to buy extra equipment. All standard equipment is available in the 7 villages at standard prices, except the following: battle axes, crossbows and quarrels, polearms, two-handed swords, lances, chain and plate, armor, all transport animals, and related objects. Also, all water transport is unavailable except canoes, sailing boats, and rafts. The natives of Tangaroa occasionally visit the tar pits at the end of the trail to renew their supplies, which they use for waterproofing their boats and roofs. Okay. Party can hire a guide to take them as far as the tar pits. The guide will also tell them where it is safe to cross the pits. The party can also hire 2 to 12 bearers to carry supplies. However, no more will travel beyond the wall without a guard force of at least 30 fighters. Wow. The guide will cost 5 GP per adventure, and bearers will cost 1 GP each per adventure. They will not leave the path nor go beyond the tar pits at the end of the trail. The natives will never hire out as warriors. Okay, so once per adventure, I'm assuming they mean here if you're making these forays from Tangaroa out to the rest of the island, then you come back, that will be one adventure. And these guys will take you basically up to the doors, help get your stuff up to the doors. But unless you have a massive fighting force, 30 fighters, and again, particularly back in the day, that is not an impossibility, depending on how the party equips themselves, what kind of transport they get, if they're lucky with weather and other things, and they kind of make it there intact. You could legitimately have a party showing up with a large mercenary force, right? So having that note there, in a modern game, you think, well, that's insane. Who's going to have 30? What kind of party is going to have 30 fighters? But back in the day, you could potentially have a 30 fighter force showing up on the island. And this is just to say that if you happen to do your party is that well equipped, maybe this is not even their first time to the island itself. Maybe they've gone and come back, spend some treasure to get more, again, mercenaries or some other kind of military help. Then they can do that push. Otherwise, they can get to the door with their supplies, and then after that, they're going to be on their own. Jaws from the deep. All right, let's see. So I guess we're getting into areas on the map itself. Let's see though. So that was Tangaroa. Trying to look here on the map. Where is 1? Okay, yep. So that was 1, 2, right next to it. I'm kind of curious about Jaws of the Deep from the Deep, but I'm probably not going to go through these number by number because they're not going to mean that much. I'm just going to find interesting things. So this encounter area is offshore, a little bit northeast of Tangaroa, past the wall. The wide white sand beaches and placid waters of this bay belie the true dangers that await anyone entering the water. Swimming just out of sight are 5 bull sharks. These savage creatures will attack anyone who moves more than 20 feet into the bay and will fight until slain. If blood is drawn by either side, there is a 75% chance that 5 more sharks will be attracted by the scent of blood. They will arrive in 8 rounds and will tend to attack wounded creatures first. 8 rounds is a long time. So it's kind of interesting. So you have a good chance of getting more sharks coming, but you're still fighting after 8 rounds. That is a tough fight. Hopefully you've swam your butt back out of the water. Because if you went in 20 feet, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's kind of interesting. I might, if I was trying to make that, I might kind of shrink that down. 8 rounds seems like an awful long time. I mean, it's not in fiction time. Maybe that's what I did. I mean, 8 rounds. I forget in BX. BX rounds might be a different. It's maybe not 6 seconds anymore. I can't remember. But it's, either it's a couple minutes or or less. But still. Anyway, they're there. Where's 3? So we got sea snakes somewhere out there. Okay, so 3 is further out in the water. Got sea snakes. All right, so I'm just going to skip. Let's see. We got caves of the rock baboons. These are all just kind of locations all spread around because the caves of the rock baboons are quite far from Tangaroa. The sneeze there, that's the way that they're numbered, they kind of bounce around a bit. So let's see. The pirates camp. And here's another kind of old school sort of thing, right? You go to the pirates camp, there are 41 pirates, including some leaders and some different ones. I mean, that's a lot of pirates, right? And it's clearly the idea here, if you're a small party and you're coming up in there, if you look at a pirate camp that's got 40 pirates in it, that's probably a good idea to tell you maybe you don't want to just run in screaming to fight them. Or if you feel like you need to take them out or want to take them out for whatever reason, you're gonna have to plan out there because 41 is way too much just for a 3rd level party, presumably. To just take on. I mean, maybe if you're at the higher end of you're more towards 7th level, maybe you got some spells that can help wipe out some large swaths and maybe get the rest of them to flee. Because like I mentioned before, if you're using reactions and you're also using morale, then if you drop their morale enough, they might surrender or run away. Still, that's a tough fight, so you probably want to avoid it. And let's see, they go into the pirate camp. I'll skip over the pirate camp. They have their own wall. There's a hippogriff nest. There is a rakasta, which is, rakshasa, I think is how they, now they call them rakshasa. At the time it was rakasta. The tribe of rakasta have set up a temporary camp in this hex. Rakasta are a race of nomadic feline humanoids. They walk erect, but their hands and feet are cat-like, and their bodies are covered with soft, tawny fur. They are proud and barbaric, fierce fighters who cover their natural claws with metal war claws. their favorite weapon. The strongest warriors will ride saber-toothed tigers. They dwell in large waterproof tents richly furnished within. The Rakasta's treasures include silk tapestries, brightly covered carpets, bronze artifacts, gilded leatherwork, silverware, and gold jewelry. The tribe's treasures are worth a total of 10,000 GP, but they weigh about 10,000 coins. So I guess it ends up being about the same. But certainly you're not getting a. I guess that the idea is that you're not. It's worth a lot of gold, but it's also heavy. It's not something where you have a gem that's worth 10,000 GP. So you're going to have to card out as much stuff as if you were carding out all the coins of 10,000 gold. I'm going to give you some information about the warriors, then we can go into the camp, which I'm going to skip. All right. Then there's a Phantom settlement. This small settlement of about 100 Phantom. These halfling-sized creatures look like a cross between a monkey and a raccoon and glide from tree branch to tree branch like flying squirrels. The settlement cannot be seen from the ground because of the foliage between the ground and the tree settlement, which is 50 feet off the ground. Since the settlement is hidden, a non-Phantom must be within 20 feet to distinguish it from surrounding greenery. The settlement consists of half a dozen wooden platforms built between several large trees. Let's see, each platform is supported from below by wooden braces. The platforms are also supported by a web of knotted ropes, like the cables of a suspension bridge. Each platform contains a number of wooden huts that vary in size. Okay, the Phantom usually climb or glide up to their settlement. One platform, however, has a trapdoor in the center of the floor, which a rope ladder can be unrolled. All right, so you got Phantoms, you've got Rakasta. Did they say how many Rakasta were in there? Oh, 16. 16 normal, 3 Tiger Riders. Okay. More goodies to be found. All right, so now we're talking. Now we got some lizard men. This lair is located on the edge of a dense swamp in a dank, half-flooded cave. 14 lizard men. They hunt and eat the various swamp animals that live in the area. Excuse me. For tribal feats, the lizard men will occasionally attack a Neanderthal lair. From these raids, the Saurians have accumulated a small hoard of treasure. For the lair, use General Cave Lair number 1 or number 2, or create a different one. 1 to 3 lizard men in each chamber, except for the hearth treasure room, which will contain the remainder of the group. So here you got some treasure, but you've got 14 lizard men to deal with. And here's a Neanderthal lair. In this lair are 16 normal Neanderthals and 2 leaders. And let's see. Again, just use General Cave Lair number 1 or 2. Each room will have 1 to 2, except for the hearth treasure. Okay, it's basically the same copy as the lizard men, but this time with Neanderthals. And they also have some treasure. Crude wooden furniture and has a fire. And each room has a fire pit. The walls are painted with hunting scenes, and the floors are kept reasonably clean. If you'll notice, there's a pattern here of basically here are the layers for stuff that you will have the random encounter tables. So the random encounter tables aren't just random in the sense that anything can show up here from anywhere. It does have a basis on the Isle of Dread itself. So you can encounter lizard men out in the wild. Here's where the lizard men live. You can encounter Neanderthals in the wild. Here's where the Neanderthals live. We'll see gargoyles. We'll see these other Araneas. We'll see these different things. Here's where they live. So you have, as a GM, a basis for doing a lot of things, right? If the players encounter a party of lizard men and they want to track them back to the lair, you have some reference on the map of where that lair would be if the player party is able to track them down. So it's not just, well, anything can show up here. I mean, I think sometimes with the dungeons, they call them, funhouse dungeons, where kind of anything can show up, and there certainly is an element of all kinds of stuff can show up. But here, they certainly have taken steps to give some basis for a lot of the creatures of they're out here on the island, this is where their home base is. And then you have to put together as a GM, you have to stay when your party encounters something, there's information about where they're coming from potentially, because you know where the lair is. or if the party makes steps to try to find the lair, and if they're smart, they are going to try to find the lair, because finding the lair is where the treasure is. Much more treasure is going to be in the lair than you'll ever find on their person, if anything. So a smart party will, if they defeat the lizard men, are going to try to find out where the lizard men lair is, and now we know what that lair is and how many lizard men tend to be in it. All right, gargoyles. In this hex, they will notice a single grotesque statue standing atop a craggy rock peak several hundred yards in the distance. As long as the party is at least 100 feet away, the figure will not move and will appear to be nothing more than a stone statue. However, if someone moves closer than 100 feet, the gargoyle will fly forward with a grating shriek and attack. Two other gargoyles, attracted by the other's cries, will leave their nearby cliff lair and join the fray. This is definitely just a kind of an encounter hex. You enter this hex, you kind of don't go to investigate too closely. You'll be left alone. You go to investigate, and it's coming at you. But it does have a ruby worth 600 GP and a scroll protection from elementals that's in the cave if they find it. Here are the Aranea. This is their lair. The Aranea are a race of highly intelligent magic using arachnids who live in webs strung between the trees. They look like huge greenish-brown spiders about the size of a small pony, gross, with a massive, odd-shaped lump on their backs that houses a large brain, also gross. The webs are about 40 feet above the jungle floor. These lairs cannot be seen unless one climbs above the first layer of leaf growth, about 20 to 30 feet above the ground. Each Aranea has a separate lair, but the walls, are close enough together so that the Aranea can jump from one to another with ease. Part of the webs are roofed over with a waterproof mixture of leaves, bark, twigs, and web strands. And the picture of that spider is also pretty disturbing. So these guys' teeth just really just impaled on that poor fighter type. The section of forest is inhabited by 3 Aranea. Each has its own lair. The webbed-over sections of their lairs resemble caves. These are filled with many pieces of crude furniture made out of wood, vines, and webbed in place on the floor. These include storage chests and libraries used for spell research. Aranea treasure is usually woven into the roofs of their lairs for safekeeping. Interesting. So there you have it. And they are kind of gross. And you get a Pteranodon Terror. 3 Pteranodons. Yep, and then there's a Roc's Roost. We got some more flying ones. Dimetrodon Peril. Dimetrodon, boy. Peril. Okay. Ooh, they hear a series of horrible screams. In the center of a grassy clearing is a Dimetrodon. I don't even know what a Dimetrodon is. I'm not familiar with that one. Attacking a frantically struggling native. Although the native is mortally wounded, if the Dimetrodon is slain or driven off, he will give the party's only treasure, a nugget of platinum. He'll swear to bury him in a special location. Okay, that's kind of cool. So that area, it's basically just an encounter. A one-time encounter, the Dimetrodon attacking the native, get a little bit of gold, and then poor guy does not even forget trying to heal. He just wants to bury me at Wounded Knee, sir. There's an ogre's lair, ancient burial chamber, the ranged Ankylosaurus. This is another sort of just encounter spot as opposed to a lair area. Let's see. The area is also the hunting ground for an allosaur. Okay, all right, that's cool. Abode of the Green Dragon. All right, let's see what they do with the dragon lair. As the characters pass a low stony hill, they will notice a broad opening in the rocky hillside. Once the party arrives at the mouth of the cave, they will be able to hear heavy, labored breathing coming from inside the dark cavern. For the lair, use either one of Cave Lair 1 or Cave Lair 2. Characters enter the caverns, they will find all the rooms empty except for the hearth treasure chamber. In this room lies a green dragon, a creature of great age and fearsome aspect. Okay, he will be, quite often, 33% of the time. Wait a minute. He will be asleep atop his pile of treasure and can be surprised. Okay. However, if he is awake when the party enters his cave, he will know the characters are there. There's a 50% chance that instead of slaying the party, the dragon will allow the characters to leave if they give him all their magic items. Oh boy. So talk about a risk and reward proposition. So he might be asleep. Got 33% chance of that. But if he's awake, you've got a 50% chance he's just not going to kill you. So, it's not save or die, but it is definitely, go in there with caution, because it seems like if you roll that 50%, it no longer matters what the party does or says. Maybe the dragon's just sense of honor or, respect has just been so perturbed that, excuse me, that they're not even going to engage in any kind of diplomacy. They're there to kill. But it does got a lot of treasure. 40,000 silver pieces, 2,000 gold pieces, 30 assorted pieces of jewelry worth 18,000. So what is it? 100 silver to gold. Anyway, that's a lot. Upwards of at least, I don't know, if is it 100 silver to gold? Is that like 4,000 more gold? 6,000? I don't know, 20, I don't know, say 20 to 30,000 gold. That's a lot. Of course, the way I play and other things, you have to actually get that gold somewhere. You don't get the XP from it when it's just sitting there. You have to cart it back to, I suppose, that village, at least, which might put a little bit of a damper on it, because that's a 40,000 silver and 22,000 gold. Not the not the easiest kind of thing to carry around with you without some support that in this kind of area you don't have, right? Because unless you got however many fighters, 30 fighters or whatever the number was, that you're not getting bearers to come out with you. So you don't have teamsters to carry that back. So you got to figure out how to get it back, which is the kind of fun thing with these kinds of sandboxy type things, is that's part of the fun. Because you found this hoard, dollar signs are going off in your brain. Maybe you're thinking, man, that's a level or a couple levels, whatever for me, but I have to be able to now get this treasure, get it back. And then there's a lot of stuff as a GM you can play with that. As the player, you're thinking, I got to get this treasure there and back. I got to get porters, or I got to try to get, maybe make a sled or something and get this treasure there. If it's multiple trips as a GM, you can go, well, the other people are going to notice that you're hauling back treasure. Maybe they try to follow you. Maybe they try to kill you. That kind of tension, beyond the fact that you may have encounters along the way or what's happening, as you're trying to totally loot this lair. So there's a lot of interesting things that are opened up with this, which is why I like, XP for gold. I like the fact that you have to get it somewhere. You don't just magically level up when you find it. You actually have to get it, and getting, and sometimes that's the bigger challenge. Sometimes the bigger challenge isn't finding the gold, it's getting the gold from where you found it to where it unlocks its usefulness, both in buying power and in experience. Lair of the wretched troglodytes. Oh, poor troglodytes. All right, just more. There's a plesiosaur. For every day the party spends within 2 hexes of this location, they will encounter one monster. What's 23? Is that a special location, or is it just special to them? 20, 21, 22, 23. What are you? I see 24. I'm seeing everything but 23. All right. Looking at the map here, 22 is a lake. 24 is out to sea. 21 is on this coast. 70. I see. Oh, 23. So that's where they're talking about. For some reason over there, it's just like a random encounter trigger in that area, in that little bit of land, that spit of land out there. There's trouble. The sea dragon is in kind of it's like a bay area that's to the west of the random encounter zone. It's got Sea Dragon. Also includes 10,000 GP. Ooh, they got Chainmail +3. A rusted cutlass with a jeweled pommel worth 500 gold and a potion of water breathing. 10,000 GP is a nice haul. Chainmail +3. That's no joke. I mean, the scale of what treasure you can get in OSR D&D is a lot different than 5th edition. I still think, I mean, if you're third, I don't know, 4th, 5th level, I feel like +3 chainmail is still good. Doesn't have any, other special abilities, but it's decent. Absolutely. Here we go. So now we're assuming that the party has, if that other section we just went through, all this stuff here was all this stuff that's kind of on the outskirts of the island. The assumption is at some point through hook or by crook, the party's figured out or they've decided to try to get to the Central Plateau. Since the rumors, everything all the knowledge that they've gotten will be pointing them that where the treasures, where all the stuff is in that Central Plateau. And so let's see the description of the Central Plateau. Bordered by mountains on one side and the Great River Canyon on the other is the Central Plateau. It stands separated from all else by steep, jagged cliffs that rise 3,000 feet. There are only 3 ways to reach the top of the plateau. By crossing the rope bridge at 15. Oh, okay, I see where that is. All right. By using a magical flying device or by climbing. Characters without climbing skill cannot successfully scale the cliff, and even thieves must check for falling every 100 feet 30 times. Wow. All right. The characters should be given hints about the great risk involved in climbing. Basically, they don't want you to climb, but they're saying you can, but even if you're a thief, you're going to be checking 30 times, which chances are means you're going to roll a failure. Rolling that many times, your luck's going to run out. The plateau is shown on a separate map, which is map D2. Let's see if I can find D2 since it looks like, here we go. D2, the Central Plateau, and has its own encounter table and layers. The temperature atop the plateau is somewhat cooler than the rest of the island and less tropical, except for the volcanic crater, resulting in grasslands and some forest. The plateau is dominated by a dormant volcanic mountain, complete with a crater lake. This mountain can be seen from nearly all points on the plateau. Okay. Here they're going to let us know the scale is different. It's only 1 mile per hex. So the characters will travel 6 times as fast per day. Since instead of doing 1 hex, you're going to be doing 6. So that's great. Let's see. Note, however, that it takes much longer to scale the cliffs at Area 3. Okay. Encounters on the plateau will also be handled somewhat differently. See Central Plateau encounter table below. So right here. Central Plateau, the encounter table is to be used when traveling across the Central Plateau of the island. Every 3 hexes traveled, a d6 should be rolled. On a 5 or 6, an encounter occurs. So this is not just once per day, once per night. Now it is essentially every, regardless of when you're moving or how far you intend to move, every 3 hexes you're gonna roll a d6. So now you're doing multiple times a day, and now it's also on a 5 or 6. So you have 33% chance of running into something. The encounters in the middle of the encounter table are more likely to be rolled than those at the high or low ends. Hence, on the encounter table, antelope will be most common, followed by boars and dire wolves. Very seldom will players encounter a cave bear or a saber-tooth tiger. So it's very interesting, right? A little bit different way of running encounters. It's not just a flat percentage die or some kind of chance. It's a 2d6 roll with 6, 7, and 8 being the most common. So like they said, 7 is antelope, so you're most likely going to get 7, which means you're going to be getting a lot of encounters, but those encounters might just seem very, naturalistic. You're just going to see antelope. Good if you need to get food, because potentially, I don't know how long it's going to take a party to get up there, what condition they're going to be in, but they'll have ample opportunity to hunt. Dire wolves can be tough, 4 of them. boar, you could roll for reaction to see if they charge or if they run away or what they do. Let's see. We also have Titanotheres, which I'm not sure what they are. We do have K-bears. We do have woolly rhinos. We have pteranodons. We have pterodactyls, saber-toothed tigers, and we have a tremor, which is not so much, obviously it's not a creature encounter, but is an environmental encounter. This is a minor earthquake that will vary in severity. Roll 1d6, consult the table. Okay, 1 to 4, minor shock, no effect on the characters at the ground. 5, major shock, characters knocked off their feet. If climbing cliffs, 30% chance of falling. So try not to be on the cliffs when that happens. 6, severe shock, trees tilt, rocks fall, small cracks appear on the ground, characters knocked off their feet. If enforced, 5% chance per character of 3d6 damage from a falling tree. If climbing cliffs, 60% chance of falling. All tremors will last for 10 to 30 seconds. That's cool. It's flavorful. Right? If you look at this, there's a very small chance of something really bad happening unless you have to be in the woods or on the cliff. But even then, if you're in the woods, it's only a 5% chance, right? So you'd have to roll 1 on a d20 for something bad to happen. If you're on the cliffs, that's worse. I mean, there's either a 30% or 60% chance. So if you roll a 6, 60% chance. But all told, it's mostly just for flavor. Shaking, things happening, maybe get knocked over, but, no damage. But it's definitely, maybe raising that tension level because it's obviously establishing if this happens that this place is not super stable. And here we have their encounter areas. There's a gold vein, Trant Forest. Let's see. Talks about some different things if your party chooses to do while in the Trant Forest. Here we go. Here's the village. I didn't pull up that map before, but here's the village of Tanaroa. You can see here's the central meeting area, the different clans. There are the tar pits. And then there you can go to the gate. I guess they don't mention it, so I assume that the village, because I think in like King Kong or something like that, I don't think they really tolerate people leaving, or maybe they don't care. But obviously here they don't seem to care. And since there's at least one encounter with a villager who's beyond the wall, I guess villagers must, at certain times, risk going beyond the wall for fun and profit. Here we have the Isle of Dread itself. Here we have the multi-purpose General Cave Layer 1 and 2 that we can use for some of those different lair areas. Here's that map of the continental area. That's the other part of that. With Isle of Dread way down there at the bottom. Here's the pirate lair, which we mentioned in passing, with 40 some odd pirates. There's the Rakasta camp. There's the Aranea lairs. There's the Phenaton platforms. There's the Central Plateau. And the village of Mantru, which we will, I assume, see. So in the Trant Forest, if the characters try to cut down a tree, Trant will arrive in the first turn of activity, so pretty quick. Trant will try to avoid being noticed, but will cause the tree being cut down to move away at 30 feet per turn. That would be kind of funny. Each turn thereafter, one Trant will arrive. The Trants will do whatever they can to drive the party from the forest while avoiding combat as long as possible. So it's interesting. They're going to try to essentially guide the trees and just push everyone out of the way and maybe use other kinds of sort of scare tactics or mystery tactics. I'm curious if, depending on the level, I guess, if your trees start running away from you while you're trying to cut them and other things are kind of spooky things are happening in the woods, probably just get out. But players being players, they might go for option 2 and try to just fight everything. If a small campfire is lit, the forest will gradually recede from the camp, leaving a clearing 50 feet in diameter. That's funny. The 3 Trants will be in position around the camp, controlling the trees. They will do nothing if the party uses dead branches and brush for the fire. If the party collects living branches or wood, each Trant will send 2 trees through the camp late at night. The characters will not be attacked unless they try to destroy the trees, but the trees will try to take or destroy as much gear as possible on one pass. If a fire-based spell is used, the Trants will attack the caster. So again, these are just kind of fun things. So I can imagine you have your party, they set up camp in the woods. Suddenly they look up and the woods are moving away from them. And then if they ignore that and they still just kind of hang out and they've collected live wood to burn or to use later, then trees on somebody's watch is I assume someone's taking a watch. Then some trees start running through the camp trying to rampage and break everything. Makes for a very kind of fun, interesting, potentially kind of spooky in its own way encounter, right? And that's before the trees have really done anything. All they're doing is just doing these other kind of effects, but they have purpose to them, and they can be damaging to the party if that's your food supplies or other things are being destroyed. But of course, you also could be clear that you've probably missed a bunch of hints to leave the woods, leave that forest alone. All right. Cliff wall. The cliffs surrounding the central volcanic lake form a high, imposing wall of upthrust rock. Often shrouded in low clouds, the tops appear jagged and in some places snow covered. There are no clear trails over the cliff wall, but it appears that the wall can be scaled in many places. Even characters without climbing skill may attempt to climb, as there are obvious handholds and routes up the rock face. For all characters except thieves, the base chance of falling is 50%. This may be reduced to 10% if a thief is with the party to give guidance, by 10% if the character's dexterity is 15 or greater, and by 20% if the characters are roped together. The DM may further adjust the chance of falling depending on other party actions. It will take 12 hours of climbing time to reach the top of the cliffs. During this time, normal encounters are still rolled for, but only the following apply: pteranodons, pterodactyls, and tremors. Okay, so it'll be a long, arduous climb, but you can get there. And I like the fact that you get a little bonus if you have good dexterity, if you have a thief, all these different things. I like it. At the top, the rocks are covered with ice and snow, and the temperature is below freezing. No encounters will occur here, but characters who attempt to stay here overnight without warm clothing will suffer 2 to 12 points of damage from exposure. If the party has brought firewood, they can start a fire to keep warm, but there is none to be found here. But don't get them from the Treants woods. As the party descends into the volcanic crater, an 8-hour climb, the temperature will become warm and near tropical. Jungle vegetation covers the lower slopes, but the valley is sparsely populated with animal life. No normal encounters of importance will occur, but on a roll of 12 on 2d6, a minor tremor will shake the ground. Okay. So this is basically party moving. If the theme of this adventure is really the going inward from the edges of the island or outside the island middle, so now this is theoretically they get to the Central Plateau. The only thing really they're going to find, other than just various animals and things, is that higher part, the cliffs. So they're going to eventually, unless they turn back, they're going to go to the cliffs. They're going to try to climb up, and now we're going inside the cliffs and down. So we're moving to the center of the island. This small village lies on the shore of the large crater lake. Its landward side is surrounded by a crude palisade of palm trunks and branches that extend into the water on both sides of the village. Part of this wall has been expanded to form 2 fish pens for keeping any extra fish from the daily catch. The village itself consists of 6 palm-thatched lodges that are raised about 2 feet off the ground on stilts. Further out in the lake are 2 more lodges, kept 3 feet above the water on stilted platforms. The small one belongs to Umlat, the tribal cleric, an aged man. The large building is the main council lodge. The village has 50 inhabitants who live by fishing and farming small gardens. They are divided into 5 large families who live as one group, sharing food and work. Each family has its own possessions: canoes, nets, tools, and lodges. These people are not warlike. Okay. Let's see. In the village, the party will be introduced to Fano, the talking chief, and the village leader, Umlat, the tribal cleric, both described later. And the quote-unquote chief, a small stone carving of an old man that is kept in the council lodge on the lake. The party learns that all major decisions come from the chief, while the talking chief, Fano, acts as a messenger and the interpreter of the chief's wishes. After the meeting, a solemn affair, there will be feasting on baked fish, fruits, yam paste, turtle soup, roasted birds, and fermented yam beer. This feast will be held on the beach, and great smoking fires will be lit to drive away insects. Lodging will be provided by several families. The natives will insist that at least one character sleep in each lodge. The natives will freely give anything a character asks for, but will expect the same in the future. The DM should use this tribal custom at least once during the adventure. It's a fun thing. Part of the, players are always looking for freebies. So now they have this, some villager gives them the freebie, but then the villager can come back and ask for something. And it can be an insane thing, like, oh, you found that chainmail +3, it's a shiny, I want it. And now the party's expected to turn it over when all they'd asked for was something silly, right? Because they had just done it for no particular reason. All right, so here they give the cleric and umlaut, Fano. And here we have Taboo Island. Dun, dun, dun. Which I think is... Taboo Island. Oh, that's level 3. Level 1, level 2. So there's the other parts. Let's see. Do we have any other maps of Taboo Island? Maybe not. Nope. That's all we got. Just the entrance, just the temple areas. Okay. Island was once the center of the kingdom of Kopru. Until native rebellion destroyed their power, the players should not be told who or what the Kopru were. This is part of the taboo. There's more details on page 20, which I guess we missed. We skipped over page 20 because we're on page 23. I don't remember seeing anything about Kopru. Oh, Kopru. All right, page 20. No, page 20 are maps. So what are they talking about? Maybe page 30? Must be a typo because page 20 are nothing to do with Kopru. Anyhow. All right. The largest, let's see. Oh, sorry. The Rocky Island. All right. Okay. The Rocky Island is now dotted with small ruins, statues, and broken terraces. The largest ruin on the island is a temple that is carved into the cliff wall of the island's western shore. It can be most easily entered from the lakeside as its broad steps descend to the waters of the lake. This is where the players will begin the final stage of the adventure. The lair of the headhunters is on the first level of the temple complex. The entire dungeon is damp and foul smelling. The air is hot and stale. Small blind creatures will constantly scatter before characters flitting here and there. All right, so this is the final part. So where we've gotten to as far as the adventure goes is we've started off on the mainland. We've, by hook or we've crook, we've gotten to the island itself. We've explored the outside of the island or the outer parts of the island. We've moved to the inner plateau. We've explored the inner plateau. We've moved to the volcanic lake and we've encountered that village. And now we're exploring the last part that we haven't seen, which is this Taboo Island, which presumably, if the players are still following the thread of what they've been looking for, is where the treasure, their great reward, should be located. So here we have the temple entrance. And I'm not going to go through all these because, I mean, it's always interesting to see how they lay out dungeons. So I'm just going to go through these. I'm not going to read through everything. But let's just browse through here and see what we have. So we have the temple entrance. Get some flavor text. 3 short flights of text lead up to a second landing that's 5 feet above the first. To either side of the center steps is a stone foot and ankle, which is cool. It's the remains of a huge statue. That's a nice touch. All right, so there's a guard post. The tribesmen have carefully narrowed the passage with mounds of rubble at this point so that only one character can pass through at a time. Waiting on the other side of the opening are 3 first-level fighters. All right, that's interesting. Well, one of them's got a spear +1. Let's see. Also, to observe intruders as they move down the hall. These guards will attempt to slay their opponents one at a time. Smart tactics. They narrow the passage so you have to go through one at a time, and then they're going to try to nail you as you come through. If attacked with a fireball, lightning bolt, or similar spell, these guards will gain +1 on their saving throws as they are well protected by cover. Nice touch. Should the morale of these guards fall, they will retreat to the main chamber. So again, what I mentioned before, morale. So they are going to it gives you already, right? If their morale fails, now you're given this next level. Where are they going? They're not just fleeing into the ether. They're going to maybe try to regroup in that main chamber. And we're going to see that's the next area. What's in the main chamber, that could be sounding alarms, getting more troops. Let's see. The Sarge Hall was once the main worship area of the temple, but is now being used as the central living area of the tribe. The floor is covered with mats, bowls, and eating utensils made of bone. There is a blazing fire in the center of the chamber. The hall itself is 2 stories high with balconies on 3 sides, the dashed lines on the map. There is a rectangular hole in the center of the ceiling that is open to the sky to prevent debris and small creatures such as bats from entering. A net has been fastened across this opening. This net will not prevent characters from entering through here, nor will it support a character's weight. A rope hangs from one corner of the opening. Okay, in the center of the wall, opposite the entrance, is a carved face that fills the area from the floor to the ceiling. It looks like a human or humanoid creature with its mouth agape. Carving has been cut and defaced, making the kind of creature it was difficult to identify. The other doors are all located on the balcony level. In this chamber are 10 men and 12 women, the renegade tribesmen, with 8 children. The men and women will fight while the children attempt to escape up the rope to the surface. Also, the men in areas 3A and 3C will reinforce the natives here in 2 melee rounds. Should the morale of the adults fail, those fighting will attempt to charge towards the exit to Area 1. So, nice setup. So, you get to the guard post. If the morale fails, they're going to try to regroup in the main chamber. Obviously, if they get to the main chamber before you do, we can expect that maybe some of these steps will be taken. Maybe the kids will be sent up the rope, or they'll start to send them up the rope. Obviously, there are other things that might happen. We got 2 areas on the side. Let's see. 3A and 3B. Oops. 3A, 3B right there. That's unmarried girls. Oh, 3A. Unmarried men of the tribe are asleep here. Let's see. So essentially the men in that area will reinforce. So there are, let's say, how many men? They got poison. 1 to 6 points extra damage and violent sickness and fever for 2 to 20 hours. Wow. Okay, so 3A has got the boys, and it doesn't say how many there are, or does it? Let's see. In each row, 7 young men. Okay, so in 2 melee rounds, if you're not taking care of what's happening in the main chamber, you've got 7 guys in the unmarried, the bachelor room. The bachelor girls are probably not going to come out and fight, but obviously they'll come out to try to escape or do whatever. 3B, the large room, is the tribal chief's quarters. And they will, I'm sure, come out. He's got a witch doctor with some cause light wounds, hold person, snake charm, okay. The chief, his sons, and the witch doctor will come to the aid of the families in Area 3 should the alarm be raised, which would happen presumably from those guards at the guard post at the probably minimum. There is some gold and stuff there. That was 3. Oh, there's 3A, 3A, and 3B. Okay. So there are 2 3As, and they both have 7 guys. So there are 14 guys to reinforce. Then 3B is for the unmarried ladies. I think this must be another typo because I'm guessing, yeah, because that really should be the second 3B with the chief in it should be 3C. And it's also called 3B. There's a secret viewing chamber. Where's that one? I see that. Okay. Oh, it's a different secret. Oh, there's a couple of secret passages here. The secret door, unknown to the natives, leads to a small chamber near the main entrance. The hallway is extremely dusty and apparently unused. In the chamber, moldering rags and unidentifiable lumps dot the floor, presenting a variety of vivid colors to the eye. Along the south wall of the chamber are several large stone levers and a corroded bronze tube. All right, so there used to be a mechanism for the statue, which is now ruined. The metal tube was used as a megaphone for the god's voice. That's cool. Then there's another secret chamber, or at least it's secret from. It's got a secret door on one side, which is the priest quarters. We've also got a blocked up passage. We have a weakened floor. This section of floor has been weakened from below. The stone and supporting beams have been rotted by water and slimes. The section marked by the T is sturdy enough to support one person crossing at a time. Two or more people will cause the section to break, dropping characters to the water-filled room below. I would probably definitely allow it's not quite a trap in the sense that it's not set by people, but there's definitely something that if the party has positioned themselves and can, they would get the sense that the floor is unstable. Let's see, private altar room, anything great in there? There is some treasure. Now we go down to the second floor, which obviously could get there if you were dropped through the floor. What's the normal way you're supposed to get through there? Is it just from the floor? I don't see any other stairs, but there must be. Let's see. Part of this level is underwater to the depth of 5 feet. The DM should keep track of which areas are flooded and how deep the water is, periodically reminding the players of this special condition. Careful attention should be paid to normal light sources, as these can easily be extinguished or made useless if gotten wet. Right? So stay on top of things like torches, water-filled chamber of the Great One. At this point on the day, as 5 feet below the water's surface rests a giant oyster. Oh, is this the Black Pearl? It is the Black Pearl. At this point on the dais, 5 feet below the water's surface rests a giant oyster. Okay. The DM must decide when the party can see it. Between its open valves is a large black pearl worth 3,000 GP, which is actually less than what you get from that dragon's hoard. But obviously, it's in the shape of one pearl and not as a whole ton load of coins, essentially. If the oyster is attacked from a distance, it will close its shell and not open for at least a turn. That's not a big deal. The pearl may be picked from the open oyster. Non-thieves can be given a 5% worse chance than a first-level thief at the DM's option. Failure means the oyster closes, possibly trapping the unsuccessful character. The oyster will not open by itself while under attack. It can be pried open by several characters with a combined strength of 50 plus. A knock spell will also work. Yeah, probably not good. It might be hard to get 50 plus strength combined. But that's an interesting way to judge a bunch of players. Pulling on is just add their strengths together. You get up to over 50, then and manage to wedge the thing open. How big is a giant oyster? I guess it must be pretty big, since it seems like you can get trapped in there. Lair of guardians. Small puddles. All right, this is the center of the room's ceiling is an obvious trapdoor to upper level. Area 5. Okay. This trapdoor is wooden and appears to be severely rotted. Oh, I think, is that circled F? Yep, okay. It was in the priest room. There was a symbol that looked like a little F with a circle in it. That's the trapdoor that leads down to this room. 4 spitting cobras. So, of course, remember before, as they like to do, there was those priests had scrolls of that access to snake charming. Here you find snakes. It's kind of like it's nice to set up these sort of relationships. And presumably the players could have picked up some scrolls or whatever, then there's a chance for them to use it. And there's also a piranha pool. There's a priest chamber. Ooh, +2 mace. Some rats. A fire trap. Even though it's flooded, its trap still operates. A boiling well. Now we have a 3rd level. And remember, like most things, they're supposed to get, classic dungeons, everything gets a little bit harder the more levels you go down. But not only that, the kind of bigger and better things. You're encouraged to explore down as much as you can in a dungeon, because the best stuff is at the bottom. And usually that's where the climax of the dungeon is, at the bottom of the dungeon. This is a single natural cavern of great size. The air is hot, steamy, and foul with volcanic gases. The floor of the cavern is a field of bubbling mud pots, small geysers, hot springs, and mineral crusts. The colors are rich, reds, browns, and yellows combined with blacks and grays. Terraces crusted with deposits from mineral springs extend from the sides of the cavern at several points. Stalactites hang from the ceiling and merge with stalagmites in several places to form pillars from the roof to the floor. The heat of the chamber will prevent the use of infravision. That's an interesting touch. Occasional flares of ruddy light combined with great bursts of steam from the depths of some of the hot springs will briefly illuminate small points in the room. Okay, so interesting. So infravision is going to get messed up. Bursts of steam. This is natural chamber. It's got this kind of terrace crusted with minerals. Got nice imagery. That does have some mechanical impetus, has some mechanical effect. When the characters are moving about the floor of the cavern, there is a 1 in 6 chance per turn that one of the following events will happen. And we roll. Mud pot bursts, spraying random party member with hot mud, 1 to 3 points of damage. You think that's just like, that's just a little silly thing, but depending on what condition you are when you get down there, I mean, that could potentially kill you. Remember, there are no death saves in OSR. You would just drop to 0 and you'd be dead. So if you're in bad shape and you happen to be unlucky, like you could just die to mud pot. Geyser sprays random member with hot steam, 1d4 points of damage. Cloud of steam from hot springs covers 10-foot diameter area, blinding all within it for 1 to 4 rounds. Randomly determine which members it centers upon. Boiling water splashes random party member, 1 to 3 points of damage. Gas bubble bursts near random party member, save versus poison, or be nauseated for 1 round. No action may be taken. Small tremor shakes the cavern. So really only 6. All these you're getting some kind of nasty except for the 6th one. Though I suppose the gas bubble's the least, because being nauseated, it's just you can, you're down for a round throwing up or anything, but you're not taking damage. Whereas 1 through 4 is all some sort of damage is being taken. And let's see, per turn. Now, I'm assuming they mean exploration turn, not a combat turn. So we're talking about 10 minutes of time, 120 feet. So they have some leeway. But still, this is a dangerous spot to be for any length of time, because even if you're in here for a handful of turns, you're likely to take, say you're in here for 6 turns, which would be an hour. That's, 18, if you potentially 18, 20 points of damage, which again, depending on what level you're hitting there and what your condition is and everything, might be really bad. And even if it's not, we're going to assume that, maybe there's something down here that might be awaiting for you. Probably want to be at your full complement of strength. The mineral terrace. Oh, so that's where we are. So at the back of this, no, sorry, not the back. The mineral terrace A is right where we're coming in. And so you come from the stairs, you hit A first. The terrace leads to the stairs to level 2. If characters have been washed down these stairs, they will be able to stop themselves here. The terrace is white with calcium deposits and hot enough to be painful, but not damaging. All terraces are somewhat slippery, and there's a 1 in 10 chance of slipping if care is not taken. The characters will attack at -3 to hit and defend at -3 due to the wet, unsure footing, and have 10% chance per round of slipping. Characters who slip will use at least 1 melee round while they stand and may even slip off the terrace at the DM's option. Okay, so that is not good. B, the Kapru. In the bubbling mud at each location is a concealed Kapru. 2 total. Okay, well, there's more mud, but all right, 2 total. What else we got here? They are amphibious humanoids who dwell in the hot geyser pools. The Kapru will use their special charm ability to capture members of the party or perhaps lure them off the paths and into the geyser baths. Characters who fall into a geyser basin will take 1 to 8 points of damage each round from the boiling water. If the charm attempts fail, the Kapru will either physically attack the characters on the paths or hide in the hot mud, awaiting a chance to strike again. If the party is obviously stronger or is trapped on a terrace, the Kapru will not pursue, but will wait in the bubbling mud. If the party is badly hurt or obviously weak, the Kapru will attack both mentally and physically. The Kapru will never surrender and will attempt to enslave as many characters as possible. Should the entire party be enslaved, the Copper will attempt to use them to restore the Copper's ancient kingdom. If this happens, the DM can either start thinking up ways the characters can serve the Copper or retire the captured characters from the campaign, perhaps be reintroduced later as NPCs. The DM and players should talk it over to come up with their own solution. Again, like, this is old, and yet it's got the same kind of thing that we would talk about now, that people, I think, oftentimes, will look back at old D&D and say all this stuff about DM is God and all this stuff. But here it's telling you plainly, hey, look, talk to your players. Like, if you guys fail and the Copper win, as a table, come up with a solution that works for everybody, which is great, right? It's the kind of stuff that we talk about now when people will say, oh, this happened in my campaign. What should I do? And the first 800 responses are, talk to your party, talk to your players, come up with something. Here they're telling you, Isle of Dread. It's right there. DM and players should talk it over, come up with their own solution. See? Perfect. So these things are nasty. I guess we'll see when we get to the monsters area what that charm can do. And by terraces, I believe what they're saying is that anywhere in those white spaces that you're walking around in, you have those nasty effects. So not only are these things that can happen all around, but when you're on these white areas, the terrace areas, you're attacking at -3, you're defending at -3. You got that 10% chance per round of slipping. So there's a lot that's stacked against you in here. So that makes it a tough encounter. Plus the Copperu, as they said, there's no reason for them to really come out of that mud. They're not going to just jump on the terraces and fight you. And if you are doing that as a GM, you're probably not playing them the right way. These should be things where the party is trying to potentially figure out, get to the, find as much as they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to get to the other end of the court, to the chamber, see what's there. And the Copper should be these really nasty things who are striking out of nowhere, disappearing, trying to lure people down, and the damage. They should not just be, haha, roll initiative, and they're just going to stand toe to toe and attack. That's not how these guys should work. All right, we've got a boiling well. Let's see. Here is the hot spring that is connected to the U-shaped shaft on level 2. Characters may swim to the other side. Okay. On the terrace beside the spring is a bag, almost unnoticeable under a crust of minerals containing 5 emeralds worth 1,000 GP each. That's nice. But you're not going to find it unless you deliberately search. But it is worth, if you get all those, the bags, 5,000 GP. That's nice. Okay, Caverns D. What is D? Oh, okay. This set of terraces leads to a series of natural caverns. These caverns are left unmapped so the DM can create his or her own special encounter areas. Many cave-dwelling creatures might live here, and there may be exits up to the plateau. This is one of those things that you find in some of the earliest adventures, which are these, right? These open areas. Hey, DMs, do it yourself. I think people think now that it comes across as being lazy, like, oh, they gave me an incomplete adventure, but I think they weren't doing it to be lazy. I think they really were legitimately doing it so that if you had a really cool idea, you could integrate something in there. If you wanted to have a further adventure, or if you wanted to, maybe your party was having a really tough time with the Copperu and they're panicking and you need to do whatever, that maybe you want to give them an exit out, give them a shortcut out, or some place that they could rest, or something else. Maybe even a friendly NPC could live in there. It really is there so that you can put your own spin on it, so that your Taboo Island, temple level 3 could be a little bit different than everyone else's Taboo Island temple level 3. But I think it gets looked on now as being kind of a lazy move. But I really don't think that's what they intended it to be. Weak crust. This section of the trail is actually nothing but a weak crust over a hot spring. Unless the path is probed first, the lead character will break the surface. The character will drop into the hot water, suffering 1d10 points of damage the first round and 1d8 points per round until rescued. Let's see. The crest will be crumbling in dangerous ground. Dangerous around the edges, and characters will not be able to come closer than 5 feet to the edge without also falling in. Ropes, poles, and rescue techniques like those used on thin ice may be used to save the character. Okay. The hidden throne. Set on the topmost terrace directly under a dripping stalactite is a throne. On the throne sits a grinning skeleton. Mineral-rich waters falling from the ceiling over many years has crusted the skeleton and the throne, hiding all but the most general features. In front of the throne, and hard to see under the mineral crust, is a sword. On the skeleton's finger is a ring, similarly concealed. They are entirely ordinary in appearance. The ring is a ring of telekinesis. That's nice. And the sword is sword +2 charm person ability, non-intelligent. Okay, it's a +2 sword, but charm person, super strong. So that is nice. And that is it. As my phone rings over there, that is the Isle of Dread. Let me just mute myself for a moment. Oh, call from name unavailable. Nice. Okay, so, and here we're going to have a little bit on further adventures on the Isle of Dread. Since the module gives a great deal of detail on the Isle of Dread, the DM may desire to use the locations and descriptions found herein after the main adventure has been played. So here we go. We get a little nice little thing just giving you some more stuff you can do. Destroy the zombie master, map the island, go on a dinosaur hunt, exterminate the pirates. Well, exterminate. That's a rough word. Bring them back alive. A tough challenge for strong characters would be to capture some creature alive and take it back to the mainland. That's interesting. Could be fun. Sunken treasure. And here we have a bit on creating human encounters. Some sample native leaders if you need. We got the matriarchs. News, tribal war leaders. Credits. Here we have some new monsters. Allosaurus, Ankylosaurus, the Aranea. These are interesting creatures. Aranea are intelligent giant spider race. They are as large as a small pony, and they are greenish-brown in color. We saw that before. The front limbs of the Aranea are divided into flexible digits. The Aranea use these to grasp prey and manipulate simple tools. In addition, the Aranea can cast spells as a third-level magic user, 2 first-level and 1 second-level spell, and they spend much of their time in magic research. Aranea live in the dense forests or jungles, spinning their web homes high in the trees. Part of the web will be rooted with bark, leaves, and vines held together with web. In the covered part of their layers, the Aranea keep their crude tools, magic research, and crude furniture. I don't know why they quote furniture. I assume it is actually furniture to them. Of web, vines, bark, and wood. They are the traditional enemies of the Phantom who will attack them on sight. They are friendly with bugbears and often hire them to guard the forest beneath their lairs. Oh, they're chaotic. Okay. It's kind of neat, right? It's giant spiders. You could think, oh, this is just like right out of The Hobbit, but these giant spiders are magic users. They're intelligent. They might have bugbear minions, and you can go sit in their living rooms if you were to make friends. So we got Brontosaurus, Dimetrodon. I just want to read the Dimetrodon one because I have not heard of that before. A sailback. Oh, that's what that is. Sailback meat-eating dinosaur. The sail is a comb of long bony spines connected with a skin webbing. The Dimetrodon is about 10 feet long and weighs nearly a ton. Dimetrodons hunt most often in hills and drier areas of swamps. Okay, now I know what that is. A Grangary? Grangary? Look like a cross between giant hornless rhinoceri and giraffes. And there are the Copru. Copru are a race of heat-loving amphibians of great intelligence and power. Their heads are smooth with large eyes and a tentacled, sphinctered mouths. They have human-like torsos and 2 arms, ending in webbed, clawed hands. From the waist down, their bodies consist of 3 fluke-like tails, each ending in a sharp, ripping claw. Yikes. Copru have +2 bonus on their saving throws against magical attacks. Okay, so I want to read about their special charm. Here we go. The special charm of the Copru is different from the charm person spell in that the person will act normally, including the use of spells and magic items, but will be totally committed to the interests of the Copru. The Copru will know the thoughts and memories of the charmed character. Character may only be controlled by 1 Copru at a time, but there is no limit to the distance at which a character may be controlled. The charm can be broken by dispel magic or by the death of the controlling Copru. In addition, the controlled character gets a new saving throw at the beginning of each game month. If successful, the character breaks free of the charm. I always laugh at that because he's older, as older as the game, charm person could last months. So the fact that you could have a character who is controlled by the Copru, and maybe the party leaves the island, maybe they travel halfway across the world, maybe they go on different planes, and yet If no one's cast a spell magic, it's still there, and then a month later, the character gets to try to make a save. It's funny to me, but it's interesting. It's just a wholly different take, right? You would definitely want to talk to the character, talk to the player at that point about, okay, you're now a Copru agent. These are your things. Now go and do it to the best of your abilities. Then we have Megatherium. We've got, I guess, a monster engine for natives. Phanatons. In their unending war with the Aranea. Orohakos Swordbeak. Plesiosaurus, the Rakasta. Definitely a different look than maybe we were used to from other things. Trachodon. Oh, it's a duck-billed dinosaur. And there it is. So that's the Isle of Dread. It's about let's see, about 1 hour and 45 minutes to just kind of do a quick run through. If I was going to prep this, obviously I'd be spending a lot more time on some of the different areas, or at least as I go. This certainly would take multiple sessions, I think, to run through, depending on how focused. I think the one thing you notice, and again, maybe I missed some things, not because I didn't read through every single entry, but you'd want to be aware of what your party is focusing on while you're running the mission, because there's a lot of stuff that can happen. It's very much a sandbox, right? So that the party can really move up to the map, can really move through and do a lot of stuff. And if they don't stay focused, on their goal, which is presumably getting to this area and getting to the bottom of that temple and getting in there, they can spend a lot of time kind of lollygagging around. And if you lose that focus, thing is with the sandbox, if you don't have focus, your party's not focused, it can really become boring because the party's not going to know what to do. The players aren't going to know what to do. And that's going to lead to them either doing frustration, or they're going to just do random things. Like, if you've ever been there playing a game and all of a sudden your party's just like, I go north, I go north, I go north. That's because they don't know what they're supposed to do. So they're just picking direction and going. And they're just assuming that you're going to stop them when they get somewhere, or stop them when they can't go anywhere, or whatever. They don't know, and they don't care where they're going. I mentioned before about, this whole adventure is posited on that letter leading you to want to get to the island, and that letter, not the letter, the log telling you where to go on the island, which is to the central area to do everything. Another thing you could do is you could set it up as a shipwreck. If the party was on their way somewhere else, they get shipwrecked en route, they wake up and they're on the shores of the island, presumably in the more protected area. And then maybe, they've already talked about how the native ships aren't strong enough to get off the island. Maybe we set up the fact that there's rumors of some kind of flying device or teleportation device in the temple. And so that becomes their purpose. Is the only way to get home is to get to that temple. And then, of course, if they can pick up loot along the way, that's great. But the game is not going to push you towards that goal more than your party's willing to, unless you make that extra work. It's just laying everything out there, and it's expecting you and the party to know that, yeah, you're trying to get to that Central Plateau. You're not going to find a lot of NPCs wandering around the inside of the Isle of Dread saying, look, go to the plateau. I'm in the plateau. Find the plateau, right? They're not going to do that. So you have to remind your players a little bit of if they start getting sidetracked. And it's not even necessarily a bad sidetrack, right? It's all going to be what does your party like to play. If they want to just do the looting of different layers, of finding dragons, of like some of those side missions, battling the pirates, doing whatever. Potentially the pirates have a boat, right? One of the things is you have to be aware of is if you do something like a shipwreck and they meet the pirates, well, the pirates, since they're pirates, I'm assuming they have ocean-worthy ships. So what's to prevent the party from just going, attacking the pirates, taking their ships, and leaving? And the answer should be nothing. But you have to be aware of that possibility if you set up a certain scenario, like just get off the island, that maybe they'll try something different to get off. Or if they are going to be on the island with the original course, make sure that they keep that in mind, what they're trying to do. And over session after session, it can be difficult. It can be good to either recap it. Obviously they'll have the handout if you've given them the kind of handout of the note. Right? They can reference that more than once, but there's not a really strong narrative arc here. This is a module that's all about exploration. It's all about your drive to find loot. If your drive for your party is not to find loot, there's no reason to go to the Central Plateau. If there's no reason to go to the Central Plateau, there might be no reason to move past the beginning area, except for the fact that they have no ships. And if they have no ships, then that might cause them to do. But if you're not running the shipwreck version, if you're running the straight version, then their ships right there, they might turn around and go home, right? Or they might do something else. So you just be aware that unlike some later modules where they really try to give you a sort of narrative path to take for good or ill, they're going to push kind of a narrative through line through this. There isn't one. You're being taken to this sandbox, and it's going to be up to you as players and up to you as a GM to remember what you should be doing in the sandbox, accomplish that goal, and get out. But it is structured that right that you're going to keep kind of going. It's almost like that spiral path. You're going around, you're going around, you're going around, and then the inside is the good stuff, and then you exit back out again. I really had fun with this as a kid. I don't remember anything about those games other than that I had it and messed around on the island. I don't really, I don't have any. I wish I was old enough to have had notes or something to say like, hey, this is really cool. I've always just enjoyed it. I've always just thought it was cool. I like the fact that it's exploration. I like the fact that there's this weird island with dinosaurs and everything on it. I like the art. Great art. Just, reinforcing that, reinforcing the theme. Just crazy stuff happening. That inside art with the Phanatons just going crazy, mauling somebody. Great stuff. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to get up to the 50 followers is sort of my mini milestone. So help me out there. If you end up seeing this on YouTube and you dug it, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to know what's coming up. There's that little bell thing now, so you can get notified when I'm posting new stuff. So go ahead and do that. It really helps me out a lot, and it doesn't really cost you anything really. So if you don't mind and you like it and you approve, then I appreciate the love. But thanks for watching. I'm going to sign out for now, and I will talk to you later.